The Green Bay Packers didn't just draft 2 receivers in the top 100 because the receivers they had weren't good enough. They did that because paying middle-class receivers just doesn't make any sense.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. The receiver market has gotten crazy. And we talked about this recently when Khalil Shakir got his deal in relationship to Romeo Doubs. And it struck me because I put out there, Rashad Bateman just got paid. And he's getting a little more than $12 million a year. And I noticed when I went back and looked that if you just go annual production, yardage created, Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson have each outperformed Rashad Bateman. Now, last year, Bateman was better and probably qualitatively and quantitatively than any of the seasons that Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson had, but he's been hurt, and that matters. And you can't just say, well, he had one good season. Cool. Romeo Doubs has been on the Packers generating value every year, nearly every game since he stepped into the league. There's value there. But it drove home the point for me. Why are you paying Rashad Bateman 3 years, $36 million, almost $37 million? Why are you doing that? And I looked at the middle class group of receivers. Now, depending on how you want to group them, let's just look at anyone making less than $20 million a year. Because I think we can agree, like the group at the top, you pay those guys. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle. Like those guys, you pay those guys. Now, do you pay $23 million for Calvin Ridley? No, you probably don't. But here is starting at Christian Kirk, who's making $18 million. He is the 21st highest paid receiver in the league. So that's upper middle class. I live in a nice neighborhood. I go to good schools. Maybe it's walkable. I don't live on a double yellow line. Like this is a nice situation. But this is, if you think about, okay, a rookie scale deal, Ted McMillan is making $7 million a year, top 10 pick. Marvin Harrison's making almost $9 million a year, top 3 pick. So the rookie wage scale, Rome Odunze is making 5.6. That's rookie money. This is really your middle class here. So Christian Kirk is making $18 million a year. Would you want to pay Christian Kirk $18 million a year? The Jaguars didn't. That's why they traded him for nothing. Deebo Samuel's making $17.5 million a year in Washington. Would you want to pay that? The 49ers didn't. That's why they traded him for nothing. Jerry Jeudy making $17.5 to run TikTok routes in Cleveland with no quarterback. Cortland Sutton making $15 million a year. Okay, I can get down with that. I like Cortland Sutton. Cooper Kupp making $15 million a year. No, sir, no thank you. Khalil Shakir making $13 million a year. Darnell Mooney making $13 million a year. He had a nice year last year, but they needed him. They threw the ball a million times. Rashad Bateman now making 12 and change. Darius Slayton just got $12 million a year. Alan Lazard, I understand the Aaron Rodgers bump. He got $11 million. Diami Brown got $10 million. Tutu Atwell got $10 million. Josh Palmer got $9.6 million. That's your middle class of receivers in the NFL. Curtis Samuel at 8. Marquise Brown at 7. I don't want any of those guys at those numbers on my football team. It's just not a smart way to allocate resources. Nate Hobbs, who is a quality starting corner for the Green Bay Packers, cost $12 million. Would you rather have Nate Hobbs, a starting caliber corner, or Darius Slayton on a good team? I would say generously wide receiver 3, probably more likely on a good team wide receiver 4. And you're paying that guy $12 million a year. It's just not a good use of resources. So I do think on the open market that Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson have that kind of value, that a team would pay them that much money. That's not the same as saying it makes sense to do that or it is wise to do that. And for the Green Bay Packers, I just don't think it is. Part of the reason you're paying your quarterback $50 million. The whole point, and Bengals fans got very mad at me when I pointed this out, but the whole point of paying your quarterback $50 million is that you shouldn't have to pay Jamar Chase 40. You shouldn't have to pay T. Higgins 25. You shouldn't have to do that. T. Higgins got almost $29 million, by the way. That's just too much money to allocate when you're paying your quarterback that much. Because if you're paying your quarterback $50 million, it has to be because he's going to elevate the players around him. Let's just play a little game. Let's go back to some of those names. How many of the names that I just gave you would you rather have over Jayden Reed making rookie wage scale money? How many of those guys would you rather have over Dontavion Wicks with all of the inconsistencies that Wicks brings? A rookie, day 3 rookie wage scale money. He's making nothing. Matthew Golden is a first-round pick, late first-round pick. He is the 53rd highest paid receiver in the NFL. A couple years ago, Marquez Valdes-Scantling got $10 million a year. Christian Watson, a high second-round pick, is the 88th highest paid receiver in the NFL. Jayden Reed is 99th, right behind Houston Texans legend Braxton Berrios. Jayden Reed making less than $2 million a year, that is a home run. Savion Williams making $1.5 million. That is a home run, even if he is just okay. If you go down and look in this range, there's a ton of great value here. Rashee Rice making 1.6, Marvin Mims making 1.5. Those are huge values for their team. Tank Dell making 1.4, Jalen McMillan making 1.4, Cedric Tillman making 1.4, Josh Downs not even getting to 1.4. That is so much better value. Now you have to hit on those guys, but that's why you draft 2. And you already have Jayden Reed and Dontavion Wicks. And when you have the good players, you can pay them. The Packers prove this. Like when they had Aaron Rodgers making big time money, they were still able to pay Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. But they were big time producers. They were Pro Bowl level players, not these middling performers. And they were able to pay Devontae Adams. But they paid Devontae Adams because they had Allen Lazard on a rookie wage scale deal. They had, Randall Cobb on a sweetheart deal. They had Marquez Valdes-Scantling on a rookie contract. That makes things so much easier on your team. Paying for competency is a trap. You either want to be paying for the high level players, or you are trying to search for that plus EV on second, third, fourth, fifth round picks. It's why when the Packers have been at their best historically, year over year, time over time, they are drafting these receivers. The ones who break out and become stars get paid. The ones who don't get sent packing. And then there are some in-between guys. James Jones was an in-between guy. He was a middle-class guy, but it turned out his market was much lower than he or the Packers thought. They were able to bring him back after they won the Super Bowl. That didn't seem like that was going to be possible, and it was. Sometimes that happens. That might happen. Christian Watson, he only plays 3 or 4 games next year. He might go out and find out on the market, hey, look, my value is, $3 or $4 million. I'd rather stay in Green Bay for that. Well, you could absolutely get some plus EV out of that. But at 12, at 13 now with inflation? That doesn't make sense. That's why you keep taking the swings. And we may be in for a salary cap reckoning around the league. It also may benefit the Packers if there is one. We'll talk about why next on Locked On Packers. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Game 1, NBA Finals last night. That means you've got opportunities coming up here. Stanley Cup Finals, Let's not shortchange them. We got a crazy game 1, an absolute heartbreaker in game 1. And look, you could have been on the right side with a bet. You wouldn't have to be on the right side of the game if you'd have bet some player props to score a goal. Those kinds of things. That's there for you on FanDuel. Plus, $200 in bonus bets adds to the excitement if that first $5 bet hits. Right now, if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Justice Mosqueda wrote a great piece for Acme Packing Company the other day about the salary cap and a potential reckoning that is coming. And he used Jed York as an example of an owner who is willing to go all in on this new sort of system. And then when it doesn't work, want to pull way back. And that new kind of system is one in which you maximize your manipulation of the salary cap. It's basically taking the New Orleans Saints model, the kick the can down the road model, and saying, hey, we can actually do this probably indefinitely or something close to indefinitely for as long as our Super Bowl window is open. This is what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. They're pushing money out and pushing money out and pushing money out. And guess what? The bill comes due in 2029 when the NFL is going to have a new media rights deal and the cap is probably going to explode again. But what that requires is major cap allocations early. And what that means, cash applications, excuse me. And that is a critical difference. And I always struggle wanting to wade into these waters because it's very important, but it's also very dense. Here is the TLDR of this, okay? In the NFL, you can pay somebody, that contract can say 4 years, 40, $15 million due at signing, and you might only ever pay $25 million of that contract because of the way the salary cap works. Because you can amortize that signing bonus, you can say, okay, $15 million, boom, boom, boom. You spread that money out and it only counts $5 million each of those 3 years. And so, you go about it that way. Or did I say 4 years, 40? Okay, whatever the math is there. I made the math complicated on that one. But the point is, when you do that, you have to pay the cash up front. That's what the Packers do, by the way. They don't guarantee money in year 2, year 3, unless you're a quarterback. And so that means you have to pay up with the signing bonus. And that means having cash because you have to put that money in their pockets. So you have situations where owners are going, I don't want to do that. There's a reason Khalil Mack got traded. And part of the reason was the liquidity for the ownership group with Al Davis and really Mark Davis at that point, but with the Davis family was they didn't have the liquidity to put all that money into escrow as they went through this process. So, okay, that's interesting. And that's a competitive advantage for teams that can do that. But you can't just spend your way out of this because the whole point is that you're being creative with the way you're doing it. So if teams say, well, actually, we need to chill out doing this because all of a sudden we're going to get to a point where the bill is going to come due. We didn't win any championships. And there's an owner looking around going, why did we do this? Can we not do this? Can we find a different way to do this? That's what Jed York is doing in San Francisco right now. And this is, again, going back to the point that I've made over and over and over and over. This is why you do not want an owner, because they will make emotional decisions over and over. It is there, and it's very easy to me to sit here in front of the microphone in my air-conditioned office with my nice bookshelf behind me and go, this is the right thing to do. No skin in the game for me, really. Not at least directly with the teams. I get paid because you're listening. I appreciate that, as always. But it's not my money. It's not my risk. So it's complicated for me to be critical in those situations. The Packers don't have an owner doing that. They don't have an owner making those decisions. They have a process that they have used forever. And there's no reason to believe they're going to stray from that process. Now, maybe if the Ron Wolf tree at a certain point ends, that would be, you'd switch to some new kind of system. But I don't know why you would do that. Plus, Brian Gutekunst, he's still a pretty young guy. Like, he could be doing this 15, 20 more years. And I would assume he's going to hand the reins to someone else who's just going to keep doing the same thing. This is what the Steelers do. Like, this is what the good teams do. You have success over a long period of time, and then you hand the reins off. This is what the Ravens did, Ozzie Smith. And then it turns into Eric DeCosta, who's been there from time immemorial. And you just continue to do what has made that team successful for so long. Being able to pay this money up front. The Packers have plenty of money. Mark Murphy, for whatever criticisms you want to have of him, and frankly, I don't know what those even are. A lot of the criticisms have been made up. It's been boogeyman nonsense. It's been, Mark Murphy's pulling the strings behind the scenes. We have no evidence of that. Well, Mark Murphy, he hired Matt LaFleur, and it wasn't really Brian Gutekunst. Okay, maybe, but it turned out that was a really good decision if he did that. So if that was meddling, he was good at it. Like, what are we talking about? There's no reason to change the system as it exists right now for the Packers, but if teams do it, if this all somehow blows up in Howie Roseman's face for some reason, and teams go, we got to pull this back. We can't be handing out all this signing bonus up front. We can't be pushing money out and out and out. Well, that's good for Green Bay because they don't ever have to do that, because they don't have to push money out and out and out, because they don't have guaranteed money to worry about. They don't have big salary cap numbers that they have to worry about. They don't have to post June 1 anybody because the contract is so bad that it is onerous on their salary cap. When was the last time this team, non-COVID related, was in salary cap jail? Like, was there a 1 and a 9 in the year? I honestly don't have a good answer for you. I can't remember a non-COVID time. I'm sure there is. But this team has their finances have been exceptionally managed over the years. We've had Andrew Brandt on this program a number of different times. He is part of that legacy. If this becomes a thing where teams go, hey, look, this whole, cash over cap thing, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep handing out the cash and pushing out the money. The Packers are going to just keep operating the way that they do. And they're going to keep handing out these signing bonuses because they generate the money. There's no ownership to pull in and skim off the top. There's no ownership there to make impetuous decisions and go, hey, for this 5-year period, we spent all this money. And the Packers spent all that money in 2019, 2020, 2021 during COVID. Budgets were tight. They maxed out the cap and they didn't win a Super Bowl. Another organization might be saying, we're not doing this anymore. We're not giving Jordan Love the money. We're going to trade him. We're going to blow this up and we're going to start over. And there may be a handful of you going, well, that's kind of what I would like to see. Is it what you'd like to see now? Like maybe you thought that 2 years ago. The Packers were able to rework this on the fly. Rework an old, creaky roster into the youngest roster in the league 2 years in a row. Back-to-back playoff wins. They found their franchise quarterback. They reset this roster with a ton of good young players. And the receiver point is just perfect evidence for what I'm talking about. That is managing your team. Would Romeo Doubs be worth $10 or $12 million based on the free market? Absolutely. Would Christian Watson be worth 10 or 12, $13 million on the open market? Absolutely. Would I advocate paying it? If it were my money, no. I would use a first-round pick on Matthew Golden. I would use a third-round pick on Savion Williams. And I would figure out Jaden Reed and Dontavion Wicks at the end of this year, because maybe you do get one of those guys to break out. Maybe Jaden Reed takes a big step forward and all of a sudden you're like, this guy's worth $20 million a year. And if he is, you should pay him. But don't be surprised if in a year the Packers use a second, a third, a fourth on another receiver. Because Jaden Reed and Dontavion Wicks are coming up. One or both of them is going to want to get paid a year from now, or whatever the math is, 9 months from now. Until you find a star, you just keep cycling. You just keep cycling. You just keep throwing darts, because those rookie contracts, when you hit on a good player on his rookie contract, look at what it costs for elite players. For Jamar Chase, $40 million. We are not that far removed. In the span of me doing this podcast, $40 million would have been the highest paid quarterback in the league, or something close to it. Now it's a receiver number. You hit on a receiver. You want to act like Howie Roseman? You hit on that receiver. Your value add at that position is huge. And you get him for 4 years or 5 years. It's why I think teams, the Packers included, might consider in the future drafting receivers in the first more often, because that 5th-year option becomes even more valuable if you get a really good player, because you don't have to give them that full extension. Now, by year 5, you probably do, but at least it's a year of cost control just in case. The Packers are in a good position to deal with this new reality precisely because they don't have an owner to make the emotional decisions that go, this new system doesn't work for me. Speaking of emotional decisions, the Packers are going to play Aaron Rodgers. And you know I had to have some thoughts. That's next on Locked On Packers. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And the Packers play the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. So if my math is correct, the Green Bay Packers will play Aaron Rodgers. And this will have a lot of people feeling a lot of ways. And I understand it. I do. You guys know where I stand on the way that I feel about Aaron Rodgers at this point. I don't think it serves anybody to rehash that. But I know that everyone is going to have different ways that they feel about it. And that's okay too. To me, this is a really cool moment, because every great player, or nearly every great player, ends up at the end of their career doing something like this. It is so rare to have someone go through their... Brett Favre was the ultimate Iron Man. Bled green and gold. And frankly, in ways that Aaron Rodgers never did. And not only did he go play for the Jets, he went to play for the Jets specifically. He basically burned his non-compete to then go play for the Minnesota Vikings. This is how these things end. Peyton Manning hurt his neck. It went so bad for the Colts. It became so obvious Peyton Manning was that important, but also that big of a risk. They got the number 1 overall pick. They got Andrew Luck. They moved on from Peyton Manning. The New England Patriots moved on from Tom Brady. This is what happens. It happens in the NBA. Great players. Patrick Ewing plays his whole career in New York. Finishes his career somewhere else. Hakeem Olajuwon, like this is just what happens. And I don't think you have to be sad about it. Sad that he's in Pittsburgh. Sad that he didn't finish his career in Green Bay. He wasn't getting what he wanted in Green Bay. He wasn't happy in Green Bay, and Green Bay wasn't happy with him. And I don't know how you could be happy with what the on-field product was. It just wasn't good enough. Like Jordan Love, over the last 2 seasons, unequivocally has been better than Aaron Rodgers. There's no discussion anymore. There really hasn't been a discussion since last year when it was obvious before the 2024 season even that the Packers made the right call. Would Aaron Rodgers have blown out his Achilles for Green Bay? Maybe not, I guess. But this is the risk you run with a 39-year-old quarterback with a lot of hits, a lot of miles, a lot of injury history. It's not unrealistic to expect that that was going to happen. But if you want to feel sad about it, feel sad about it. I do think there is a sadness in a great player not playing great. And Rodgers said over and over he didn't want to go out and not be an elite player anymore. He didn't want to play just to play. This feels like the epitome of just playing to play. Because he was not very good in 2022. Lost the entire 2023 season. Was not very good in 2024. And now we're talking about a 40-year-old quarterback on a team that he doesn't make special in the AFC. They're not better than the Bills or the Chiefs or the Ravens. I'm not sure they're better than the Bengals. I'm not sure they're better than the Chargers, the Broncos. So what exactly would you say it is you do here? You're not an elite player. You were an elite player for a long time, not anymore. So why keep playing? Why keep doing this? And, I think the answer is because the Steelers really wanted him. They really needed him, and they allowed him to miss OTAs, which is certainly what he wanted. He wanted to be able to take his trip to Egypt or wherever he went. Last year was Egypt. And not have the team blow up his spot and then just show up and do the mandatory stuff and then show up to training camp and go. It's not how it works for anybody else, but the Pittsburgh Steelers used to have dignity. They apparently don't have dignity anymore. And this is what happens. You get desperate. You don't win a playoff game against a real quarterback in 15 years. You start to get desperate. And that's where the Pittsburgh Steelers are. I think the Packers, when that game happens, are going to be favored in that game. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be very motivated, of course. I do wonder. I think if the game were at Lambeau, he would be cheered unequivocally, right? Like there's no question he would get a raucous introduction back at Lambeau. Right? If you disagree, tell me. But I think the Packers are happy. It's sort of like you break up with somebody and then like they're kind of mad about it, but you're now in a new relationship with someone you're really happy with and they're still kind of mad and you're just like, hey, good to see you. Like you get to be the nice one. Because the Packers as an organization are in a much better place moving forward without Aaron Rodgers. I won't say than Aaron Rodgers because, he's got plenty of money to retire, never work again, play all the golf he wants. I know he's got some personal things that he's dealing with, some people who are very sick close to him. I don't wish ill on him as a person or those situations. But the Packers are in much better straits than they would have been had they held on to Aaron Rodgers, certainly. And so there's no need for animosity. And there's also no need to fear him secretly going God mode because I don't think he's capable of doing it anymore. I really don't. All right, back next week. We're back Monday with an episode with Ken Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack, Anthony Belton. It was great. It was great to talk to Kenton. And And as a former defensive lineman, he's got a unique perspective on this, and that I think is really interesting. So I'm excited to bring you our next rookie orientation series. Just happened that we're going in order here, which I kind of like though. With Anthony Belton on Monday, no show on Tuesday. We'll be back Wednesday. I'll be traveling, so no show on Tuesday, but back Wednesday. We'll still do 4 shows next week, but we'll take Tuesday off. So go enjoy it. Go play golf. Go take a walk. Go for a hike. Go do something. Stay home and watch Netflix. Whatever you want to do. I give you permission. Follow me on all the social medias. Follow the podcast on the social medias. Subscribe on our YouTube page. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts so you can stay locked on Packers.